I've decided it's Sunday, February 17th, about 3:30 in the afternoon, and it's still snowing. We're getting plenty of snow here for February in southeast Wisconsin. I decided to make this Pfanstiehl two-stage amplifier a separate video because it's going to need more work than just merely hooking it up. If you remember, if you've looked at my Crosley, my part 3 video on the Crosley, before I could get that radio to function, I really had to do a lot of repairs of bad connections. I did solder in a new grid leak resistor, but there were a lot of connections in the antenna and the signal path that were very weak because it's old. These things are 80, 90 years old, and heck, anything that gets that old, including us, it just you just got to work it. So I really have to pull this out of the case. I actually didn't want to do that originally. I thought I wouldn't do that, but that was foolish thinking. It really has to come out. Now there are 6 connections that have to be made from batteries. We have, and it's marked at the top of the case, there's battery clips, the typical brass push them and stick a wire in clips. We have the B plus, B minus, we have C plus, C minus, and then A plus, A minus on this side. And I marked all the wires because I got to take the screws that hold the clips and the wires loose before this will come out of the case. So, case in point, what do you need to get to get these things to work? Now, I already know when I unboxed this and checked it out that it has good audio transformers. Both transformers have good windings, and it has 2 good 201A tubes in it, which is really a plus. However, in the on-off of this, of course, is in the jack, and we put a phone plug in the jack. And if you look at the meter, let's plug this in. There we go. Okay, now we turn the rheostat up, and look at how high the resistance is: 94, 98, 102, and it's also not very stable. And that's because all these connections are dirty. Now what we're reading the tube filaments. You plug this in, this connects the tube up to the A plus and A minus connections become live. And then you look at this, and as I'm getting it further up, the resistance should be dropping 56 ohms. That's way too high. It should be down in the 1 ohm bracket. So the rheostat, just like in the Crosley, the rheostat needed to be cleaned with some deoxit. There's other connections in here that will definitely need to be cleaned. So what I'm going to do in this video, is a part 1 video, is I'm going to take this thing apart. I've already marked the wires, the 6 wires, so I know where they go when it goes back in the case. I may even have to put some new wiring in this thing. But, and here's where I'm going to put the screws. You know, as you get older, you collect a few of these things in supporting big pharma in this country. So here's one of my many empty medicine bottles. And I don't know if these screws, I don't think, probably have to come out. One of the things I should do right off the bat is to take the wire clips loose. So we'll do that. This is a nifty little amplifier. So here's what we've got. Typical battery clip, and then of course the wires are just, I have this on the camera on a tripod. Let me see how it's showing up in the screen. Let me tip this up just a little bit. There we go. Okay, now I don't think you can see it real well, but these wires are just, they're tinned and they're just a hook. But you know those connections are going to be weak. So for certain, this has all got to come out and be gone over. And same thing, I'll pull the tubes out. I should have my spectacles on. I have a hard time seeing where the screw slot is. That's another thing besides collecting medicine bottles, empty ones. You have glasses. Sometimes you get older, it's hearing aids. I'm not at the hearing aid level yet. I hope I never get there as a musician. I still can hear pretty good. I can still ride my horse bareback. That's something to be said at 71 years old. But age does take its toll, doesn't it? I'm going to take this clip off in the medicine bottle. 3 more wires to go, and then I'll take the tubes out. And the other reason I want to take this apart is, as I mentioned in the unboxing video, that the inside of this case is fairly musty. I can see little bits of must in it, a little mold, not bad, but enough that where I'd like to clean it up and kind of oil it or do something with the inside of the case so it doesn't retain too much of a must smell. Although it is an antique, remember, you know, antiques get old and musty sometimes. And again, I can't see the screw head to find the screw slot to get it out of there because I don't have my glasses on my face like I should. Okay, that's 6 clips. Here are the tubes. Very nice. Filaments are good. Verified that. Along with the power transfers. Let me make sure I'm still in view. Okay, and I am. Now I think it's just 4 screws will take this out. Let's see. And I'll bet these screws will turn hard, and they do. Because, why? Because they've been damp. And they've been in there a long time. They're probably not made out of brass. I might put new brass ones back in. I'm not too much of a purist that feels that the same original screws should go back in. I might just clean up the old screws. Some people are real purists about this. They got to get everything exactly the way it was originally, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I only know that I do things this way, the way I'm doing it. So now 2 more screws to go, and this thing should come right out of the case. Then I can clean up the case a little bit. A friend of mine, Pat, that lives up north from me, suggested using tongue oil on the cover, getting it nice and soaked with tongue oil, and then putting a weight on it to see if the curl will come out of it. I like that idea. I might do that. We'll see. Rather than, I'm not going to strip the case and refinish it. That one really don't want to turn. Oh man. There always has to be one that's going to be almost impossible to turn out. But that's how it goes, folks. When you work on stuff as old as this, it's been probably, this thing has been in a basement. I'm almost sure that it was in somebody's basement. Probably an old place that an estate sale finally came up and all this old original junk from the 20s was still around. Who knows? The good thing about this little amplifier is it's basically untouched. No one's done anything to it. Sometimes when somebody does things to it, it can make it worse than it was just leaving it as is. I don't know. I'm hoping I'll make it much better. These flathead screws are sharp. You got to be careful. You try to turn them with your fingers like I just did, and you'll make nice little cuts in your fingers. Okay, almost done. Now, let me make sure I'm still in view of the camera. By the way, Jack, Vintage Electronic Geek, has suggested how I process the MTS files that my camera makes, and the last video I did of the Crosley, I did it in MP4. That looked pretty good. I was doing them in Windows Media version. That's not a good way to process high definition video files, so in my opinion. Oh, let's see if I can get this out of the case without breaking anything. There we go. I'm going to set the case on the floor or out of the way. So, what have we got here? This is a nifty little amplifier, really. Basically, all of these connections have to be gone over a little bit. You know, here, for example, let me see if it's in view. Maybe we'll tip her down a little bit. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Okay. Here's a lug and a screw, a brass screw with a nut through it. That's a connection. What you want to do, you know, in some of these solder connections, you got to look at here, see how good they are. Got to check everything with an ohmmeter and find out how low the resistance of the physical connections are. If they look bad, maybe you got to do something with it. I don't want to do too much to it. One thing, of course, is I will use some deoxit around on this rheostat, clean it up a little bit. I've got good audio transformers. I certainly don't want to wreck. This thing is really actually very well made. Look at this nice wooden base that everything is mounted on. That's very nice. So basically, I've got to start on this now that I got out of the case. It's basically a matter of cleaning everything up. And I don't know if it shows in the video too much, but where the phone plug plugs in, that's of course got contacts that are made. That's what turns it on and off, as I showed. The resistances on the A plus and A minus are way too high. They should be low. On the Crosley, I checked the Crosley out and I put my ohmmeter on the A plus and A minus, and when I engaged the rheostat, and the rheostat's in very good condition, by the way, as I rotated it, very high resistance, and it wasn't stable. It would go up a little high, then down. Once I deoxed it, it cleaned right up and works just like a charm. That deoxit really is a lifesaver in some in many cases. So this will be the end of part one of the Pfanstiehl two-stage power amplifier. I'll be going over it a little bit to clean things up, check it out. I'll clean out the inside of the case, put it back together, and I'm not quite sure what I might just make another video of it, and with the Crosley connected to it. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching.